Hello everyone. Took some time there. Anyways, I just wanted to say hi and here I am back again reading another chapter of a book. Book I'm still trying to get through is Who Was Albert Einstein? Let's see. We're on chapter 4. So, ready? Here we go. Chapter 4, The Best Years. I wonder when that was. I don't know. When was my best years? Well, 2004, because I had my oldest daughter. 2005, when I got married. 2010, when I had my son. And then 2013, when I had my other daughter. My camera keeps freezing, so I apologize. Alright, so those were my best years. Let's see about Albert Einstein's best years. When a person invents something, for example, a battery-powered back scratcher for miniature poodles, the inventor sends a description of the invention to a patent office. An examiner looks at the idea and decides if it's really something new or just something that is a little bit different from an already invented gadget. If it's really a new idea, the inventor gets a patent, which means other people aren't allowed to copy it. It takes a very smart person to understand inventions when they're just at the idea stage. Albert was that person. Reading applications for new inventions was like solving puzzles. Albert was so good at his job that each day he completed his work long before it was time to go home. He then was able to turn his attention to his first love, thinking. Imagine what this must have been like for Albert. It would be like a kid going to school every morning, finishing all their schoolwork within an hour, and then playing for the rest of the day. With all that time to think, Albert ended up writing and publishing more scientific papers. In 1 year alone, he published 5 groundbreaking papers in a very famous German journal about physics. A storm broke loose in my mind, explained Albert. So, in some ways, his patent office job turned out to be a lot better than the teaching job that he had originally hoped for. Picture. Einstein in 4D. Oh boy. People measure objects in 3 ways: length, width, and depth. Anything a piece of toast, a TV, a yo-yo, is so many inches high, so many inches wide, and so many inches thick. These 3 ways of measuring are known as dimensions. Albert threw in a 4th dimension, time. Albert said that the dimension of time was important as length, width, and depth, especially when measuring something really big like outer space. To think about the size of outer space, but not the time it takes for something to travel through that space, is like thinking about a song without the lyrics. Something important is missing. With steady work at the patent office, Albert felt that he could ask Olivia to marry him. So he did. She said yes, and they were married in 1903. The following year, their son Hans Albert was born. Now Albert had the time to enjoy music, long dinners, and long walks with his family. More pictures. Albert was happy and secure, confident in his job. He could relax, be more himself. For Albert, that meant dressing carelessly, wearing the same wrinkled shirt day after day, and often forgetting to brush his hair. As someone once said, Einstein looked as if he just smoked an exploding cigar. How many of you like to not have to brush your hair? I'm one of them. So as you can tell, I always wear a ponytail. It's easy to take care of. Sometimes I do like to do my hair nice, though. Albert's years at the patent office were wonderful. He had a family, time to think, and write lots of scientific papers, and enough money. Many of the greatest scientific adventures of the 20th century, electronics, the atomic bomb, space travel, were all suggested by Einstein in the papers he published while he worked at the patent office. Those ideas were then worked on further by other scientists in the decades that followed. Then in 1909, the University of Zurich convinced Albert to leave the patent office and become a professor. Albert would actually be paid to teach and study physics. Life was even more wonderful. Einstein's theory of relativity. In 1905, Albert published a paper about relativity. It was that everything except light travels at different speeds depending upon different situations. Think about relativity this way. If you look up at the sky and see a plane in the distance, it doesn't appear as if it is going very fast. You stand there and watch as the plane seems to move slowly across the sky. Yet, if you are standing next to it, the plane would zoom past you in a split second. Blam, boom, gone. That is very true, though. Watching the planes, I see quite a few of them daily, and they feel like they go super, super slow. But they're not. And yet again, if you're sitting inside the plane, it barely seems to move at all. Very true. See how the speed of that one plane can look totally different to you in different situations? That was Albert's point. The speed of moving object depends on how it's being viewed. In a short time, Albert became a very popular professor. College students enjoyed the way he explained difficult concepts with simple images. Think about this image. A man falling freely in the Earth's gravitational field who drops an object will not notice it is falling. And Albert loved to lecture. It is the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. Albert was invited to speak all over Europe. He was a rising star. Albert accepted other teaching jobs that took him not only to Zurich, but to other European cities like Bern, Prague, and Munich. And Einstein thought. Before Einstein, scientists thought that the sun was always in the same place, with the Earth and other planets orbiting around it. Think of the sun and planets as being like your neighborhood. Your home is always on the same street. Your school stays in one spot. You don't have to go looking for these places every morning. Albert, however, shocked everybody by the claiming that the sun, the other stars, the planets, everything, all of the time are moving through space. Think of a parade with bands and floats always staying the same distance from each other, but the whole parade is moving down the street. Albert's theories were startling. For example, Albert claimed that light bent as it traveled through space. This surprised scientists who assumed that light was always traveled in a straight line. Who was right? Often a scientific theory can't be proven, but this theory could be. During a total solar eclipse, the moon blocks the sun's bright light from viewers on Earth. This makes it possible to photograph the light of the stars beyond the sun. Albert insisted that a study of those photos would show light bending as it passed other planets and the sun. All Albert needed to do was wait about 4 years to the next total eclipse in 1914. Many scientists were also excited to see whether Albert's light theory was correct. In 1911, plans were begun to send a group of scientists to Russia to test Albert's theory. Russia was one of the best locations from which to photograph the stars during the eclipse. Of course, 1914 was still far in the future. In the meantime, Albert continued to think, give lectures, and develop his eccentric, genius style. Hopelessly absent-minded, he often forgot his apartment key, even on his wedding night. Lost luggage, forgot to eat, and used money as a bookmark. Then lost the book. He always buttoned just the top button of his coats. Why? It's simpler that way, he said. When Albert shaved, he used only water, which is a very painful way to shave. So a friend gave him shaving cream. Albert tried it, said it was marvelous, and then went back to using water. Why was that? It's simpler that way, he replied. Silly Albert. Sorry, I kind of got confused here. Okay. I feel like I'm skipping something, but anyways. Okay. Question about his odd look, he explained. It would be a sad situation if the wrapper were better than the meat wrapped inside it. What was really amazing was how Albert was becoming popular with people who had no interest in science. With this wild hair, mismatched socks, wrinkled shirts, and pants that were too short, Albert was not just a brilliant physics professor, he was a personality. His mysterious smile beamed from the front pages of newspapers around the world, a genius who had unlocked the secrets of God's own mind. People who didn't understand a bit of his physics, who didn't know an isobar from an ice cream bar, were fascinated by Albert Einstein. Articles about Albert showed up in many magazines and newspapers. Had TV already been invented, Albert would have been the subject of all kinds of hour-long specials. Famous formula warning, hard stuff. E equals mc squared is a scientific formula. It is so short that it looks simple, not much harder than 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's part of the reason this formula is so brilliant. Albert figured out that it, at a very difficult concept, could be explained in a very brief way. Make things as simple as possible, but not simpler. E stands for energy, and M is for the mass. Mass is the amount of matter in something. Mass is a little bit like weight. The third thing, C, is for the speed of light. Light travels really, really fast. Ever try to outrun it? Basically, what the formula says is that when a little bit of mass is changed into energy, a whole lot of energy will be released. That's what happens with an atomic bomb. An atom is split, mass changes to energy, and an incredible amount of destructive energy is released. With this formula, Einstein claimed that all matter, from the feather to a rock, contains energy. All right, that is chapter 4. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, night, and I'll see you next time.